In terms of selling influence, supporters of Hunter Biden will point out that's not a crime. So where is the evidence of illegality here? I mean, you could say that this looks bad, that there may be impropriety, but where's the illegality?
Well, it's not so much about illegality, and that remains to be seen. Let me put that on the side because, again, we still have to go through the full investigative process. What we see so far is you see a structuring of wires from this account at Robert Walker LLC going to various elements of the Biden family through many various businesses. What is not seen, and this is highly unethical, is that you have a top-ranking official in the U.S. government, somebody who was vice president under Barack Obama, somebody who is now president of the United States, whose family was taking money from foreign entities. For what? We have no idea.
That was Byron Donalds accidentally admitting that when Republicans wail on an endless loop that the quote-unquote Biden crime family was involved in all of these illegal business dealings, that they don't actually have any evidence of illegality, which would seem to undermine their entire argument. And look, I should note off the bat that if Biden or his family did commit a crime, then bring the evidence forward and there should be accountability. But right now, there is no evidence of a crime, and that's a point that Byron Donalds himself was forced to admit on air. So this is all just nothing more than wish casting on behalf of the Republican Party, which is no surprise, right? We all know that the only reason that Republicans are trying desperately to turn this into a thing is because they need something, anything, to attack Joe Biden on. Although I will say, the irony isn't lost on me that what they landed on is that suddenly they're anti-family corruption. I'm not sure it would be physically possible to project any harder, but I guess when you're operating without shame, it can be pretty easy. So just for the sake of reminding these Republicans like Byron Donalds about the party that he is a member of and the guy who currently leads that party, let's not forget that Donald Trump had just a few foreign entanglements while he was in office. Like how he claimed to have closed down certain bank accounts abroad, and yet, according to his own tax returns, that wasn't the case. Here's what Trump pretended about his Chinese bank account, followed by the reality.
This is for you. Since you took office, you've never divested from your business. You've personally promoted your properties abroad. A report this week, which was referenced, does indicate that your company has a bank account in China. So how can voters know that you don't have any foreign conflicts of interest?
I have many bank accounts, and they're all listed, and they're all over the place. I mean, I was a businessman doing business. The bank account you're referring to, which is, everybody knows about it, it's listed. The bank account was in 2013. That's when it was. It was opened it was closed in 2015, I believe. And then I decided, because I was thinking about doing a deal in China like millions of other people. I was thinking about it, and I decided I'm not going to do it. Didn't like it. I decided not to do it. Had an account open, and I closed it.
Okay.
Excuse me. And then, unlike him, where he's vice president and he does business, I then decided to run for president after that. That was before. So I closed it before I even ran for president, let alone became president. Big difference.
The other thing, and this is important because it was one of the things that we are looking for in these additional documents, is his foreign bank accounts. We have just learned that he did hold foreign bank accounts the entire time that he was in office. In 2015, actually, let's start with 2016. He had bank accounts in the United Kingdom, Ireland, China, and St. Martin. 2017, UK, Ireland, and China, and then 2018 and 2020 just in the UK. The reason why this is so important, we're going to do a deeper dive into all these foreign entities, is because the entanglement that Trump had with foreign business was a huge part of the narrative while he was in office. And now we're going to find out actually how far that actually went.
And I'm sorry, but I just find it so funny that while this guy predicated his entire political identity on being tough on China, he was doing business in China. He had bank accounts in China. He was in bed financially with the Chinese, all the while making his supporters out to look like abject fools by just offering up some surface-level condemnation of China. I've said it before and I'll say it again, no one has more contempt for Republican voters than Republican politicians. And it didn't stop with just the Chinese. What about the Trump International Hotel in Washington, D.C., which was essentially a way station for foreign dignitaries looking to curry favor with Trump? And that includes the Saudis booking 500 rooms to the tune of $270,000 just after Trump's election. Does that not count as foreign corruption? What about when Ivanka was granted a total of 41 trademarks from the Chinese government during Trump's term? Does that not count as foreign corruption? What about when Don Jr. and Eric took over control of the Trump Organization, which they pledged would have no new foreign deals while their father was in office, and yet instead of no new foreign deals, they sold more than $110 million worth of real estate. And that includes $3.2 million worth of land in the Dominican Republic and more than $1 billion worth of luxury residential units in India built by the Trump Organization. Does that not count as foreign corruption? And of course, what about how Jared Kushner's company bought 666 Fifth Avenue for $1.8 billion just prior to the 2008 economic crash and expectedly became a massive financial burden on the company? A $1.4 billion mortgage was due in February of 2019, so Kushner appealed to Qatar for investment help, which he didn't receive. Kushner then vocally supported a blockade on Qatar in what some saw as retaliation. Now, ultimately, a firm did bail them out, and one of its largest investors? Qatar. And surprise, no more vocal calls in support of any blockades. Does that not count as foreign corruption? Because I get that these people have taken up residence inside of Trump's colon, and that might impact their perception, but if you have a pulse, you'll see that all Trump trafficked in was foreign corruption. But in a way, what Byron Donalds is saying is the perfect example of the delusion that pervades the right-wing media ecosystem, in that it's impossible for reality to make its way in beyond just an inadvertent concession like the one that we just saw. A concession, by the way, that Byron Donalds will then bury under an avalanche of hearsay and unsubstantiated claims of corruption. And then the next Fox host will only cover those parts, followed by whatever Hannity and Tucker and Ingram want to cover. And the only pieces of this that will get any airtime are the pieces that are conducive to their narrative. And let's be crystal clear, when it comes to Fox, there is a narrative. If the Dominion lawsuit has shown us anything, it's that Fox hosts aren't just these umpires calling balls and strikes, they are players in the game. They were actively working to shape the news, even if it meant platforming conspiracy theorists who they themselves knew were crazy, who they themselves knew their audience would believe, but that nonetheless would serve to advantage their political goals. And don't just take my word for it, here are those jackasses on Fox's air.
Not only did they use a Venezuelan company to count our ballots, which almost should be illegal per se. Number two, they didn't allow Republicans in key places to observe the mail vote. That makes the mail vote completely invalid. Now, they didn't do it everywhere. They did it in big cities where they have corrupt machines that will protect them, meaning in Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, and Pittsburgh, in Detroit. They didn't have to do it in Chicago, in New York, or Boston. They could have. They have corrupt machines there. They did it absolutely in Phoenix, Arizona. They did it absolutely in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Republicans were shut out.
We've got evidence of corruption all across the country in countless districts. The machine ran an algorithm that shaved votes from Trump and awarded them to Biden. They used the machines to trash large batches of votes that should have been awarded to President Trump. And they used a machine to inject and add massive quantities of votes for Mr. Biden.
With this particular thing that's going on now, I've been all in trying to find the machine fraud, and we found it. We have all the evidence. So what all these outlets that have been calling me from the Washington Post, New York Times, every outlet in the country, they go, Mike Lindell, there's no evidence and he's making fraudulent statements. No, I have the evidence. I dare people to put it on. I dare Dominion to sue me because then it would get out faster.
And so while it seems inconceivable to those of us who recognize the abject hypocrisy of Republicans trying to claim that Joe Biden traffics in foreign corruption while simultaneously groveling at the feet of Donald Trump, just know that this is the result of years of conditioning their audience to only believe people who lie to their faces. And so even though it shouldn't be news when one of these Republicans accidentally is forced to tell the truth on air, that's the world that Republicans have created for themselves. Before you go, a quick announcement. I've started a Spanish YouTube channel. Democrats desperately need to be able to appeal to Spanish-speaking audiences, so this is me doing my part. To help that channel get going in the algorithm so that we can finally start spreading our progressive message and breaking the conservative stranglehold on Spanish-speaking media, please subscribe and watch a few videos. The link to that channel, called Brian Tyler Cohen Espanol, is right here on this screen. And of course, to see more of my content in English, make sure to subscribe to this channel as well. The link is also right here on this screen. Thanks so much for watching.